Now we're live. Yay!
Hello.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Literary Love Book Club live show for Ligeia by Edgar Allan Poe. We are happy for everyone that is joining us. Say hello. Let us know if you read Ligeia. And if you are catching us on the replay, please also let us know if you read Ligeia and what you thought of it. As many of you may have already guessed, my mystery co host is none other than Pollinator Cat, the creator and host of the Nevermore Readathon, which we are fresh off the heels of in January, but we are not quite done with Poe yet. So here we are today to talk more Poe. Kat, I'm sure everybody knows you, but just in case, will you share a little bit about your channel and let us know a little bit about your content and what you do?
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you, Jen, for inviting me to talk about Poe, something I love to talk about. He is a favorite of mine. My name is Kat of Kat's Novel Adventures, and I do have a YouTube channel where I talk a lot about books, but I also have interest in personal development. So I kind of, read a little bit of everything from fiction to nonfiction. When it comes to fiction, my favorites are horror, thriller, mystery, and I also do love children's literature. So I love to read picture books. I love to read middle grade. And yeah, reading is my favorite hobby, to do. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Kat, and thank you again for agreeing to surprise everybody. I know everybody's excited to see you. So we'll check in to the comments real quick and say hello. Hello, Stina. I'm so glad you can make it today. Hello, Eleanor. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your visit to join us. We are so glad you're here and hope you're having a perfectly delightful visit with your daughter. Hello, Stuart. Thank you so much for joining, and I'm glad that you read it too. Happy to hear what you think about it in a little while. First reread since high school. I would also love to know, Stina, how you responded to it in high school versus how you responded to it now, because I love revisiting some of my
Mhm.
favorite stories from different times in life because I find different things speak to me. And so I've reread a lot of Poe and like Stephen King. So I always love to know how other people respond at different parts of life. I feel like you may have understood it, maybe a little
Right.
bit better, right? As an adult, but even so, I don't know. I've read it so many times, and then I pick up different things from it each time, and I wonder, could this mean this? Could this mean that? So that's just a lot of fun to me. Hello, Adrian. I'm glad you're here. Glad you did that reread of Ligeia. And hello, ED. Happy to see you here.
Yay.
And Stina said she listened to the Vincent Price narration. Yes, I listened to that during Cat's Nevermore Readathon. And
Mm.
I mean, it probably just goes without saying, but Vincent Price reading Ligeia is about as good as it gets. Hey, Isabel. I'm so glad to see you, Isabel. I'm also fresh off a discussion from Isabel's channel for her haunted book club. And we talked about The Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry. So if you like Gothic stories, that's another Gothic,
Mhm.
story that fits into that format. So check that out.
And I will piggyback on saying that that was an awesome discussion. You and Isabel had a really awesome discussion.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
We
Yeah, I mean,
had
y'all
good.
really were able to like kind of deep dive into some things that, that's one of the things that's great about having book club discussions, I think, is there's a lot of surface that goes along with what you're reading, but when you can sit there and like really analyze and think about it, some things came out of it that I was kind of surprised. I was like, I didn't think of it that way, or just hearing what other people's opinions were about it. So yeah, I would recommend, if you have read that book, to go listen to their discussion, because it was really good.
Thank you so much, Kat. Yeah, I love to just dive deep and get really nerdy, or, maybe like make a bit of a stretch sometimes to interpret things in certain ways. But like I always was taught and then taught my students, your opinion or your thesis that you're coming up with, if you can back it up with evidence from the text,
Mhm.
go for it. Same, yes, Poe and Hawthorne. Yes, and I think, like you said, understanding it more as we go. And I also, like, at the end of the show, I'm gonna have some read alikes, and Hawthorne's name might be mentioned in that. Yes, I was gonna
Aw.
say Kat and everyone in the discussion, y'all really added
Mhm.
so much depth to what we were saying. It was so interactive. And so I hope everybody's gonna interact some today too. So I'll go ahead and put up our banners now, and we'll get into non-spoiler territory at first to just talk a little bit about the story synopsis. So my summary of this story is that it is a gothic story depicting an unreliable narrator. And you may be saying, okay, that could be any Poe story, right? But it is a gothic story with an unreliable narrator, and it is about his love for his first wife, his grief over her illness and death, and his obsession with her. And this first wife, Ligeia, is a metaphysical scholar, and she dies, but is reborn, or is she, or what happened? Can't wait to get into that. And I told Kat beforehand, we're just going to do a very brief author bio, because I feel like if you're here, and especially coming off the Nevermore Readathon, you probably know a lot about Poe. Briefly, he was born in 1809. He died under mysterious circumstances in 1849. He lost his mother at a very young age. His father had already abandoned them. He lost his wife to tuberculosis. He writes a lot about that experience, losing women in his life. So, again, we're just going to be looking at that today when we look at this story. It's another way that Poe tries to deal with that loss. So, quickly, I'm trying to move through quick because I want to keep it short. Kat and I both have something else a little later this afternoon. So ratings, it's probably no surprise it was 5 stars for me. How about
Hmm.
you, Kat?
It's a 4 star. It's 4 stars for me. I mean, I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's got a lot of what I like when I read Poe. Um, I don't know. It wasn't quite 5 stars for me. And I don't know if it's because I need to read it more. Sometimes with Poe, like your stories, when you read them, like sometimes it's an instant, this is awesome, that I
Mm-hmm.
love it. Nothing will ever sway me from it. And then with other stories, it's like I enjoyed it, I liked it. It had the elements that I like reading his stories, but there was something else more that I wanted from it. Um, I just think there was something missing for me. I think when it comes to um the second wife, like just some of the information from the beginning, like our narrator doesn't even know his first wife's last name. It's like, how did all of this come to be? I don't know. There's just like loose ends and missing, or there's gaps, and maybe that attests to the unreliable narrator. I don't know, and his, addiction and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was fine. I enjoyed it. A 4 star for me is not like a bad rating, you
Yes.
know, but that's where I stand.
And it's interesting you bring up that point about the gaps because, the narrator even states that he doesn't remember how he even met Ligeia, how she
Right.
even came into his life. So I think that'll give us a good discussion, when we get to a little bit more of the characters and plots, because yeah, he doesn't even know.
No, it's so weird.
So I will see what everybody else gave our story. Let's see. Yeah, really. I think Edie was probably responding to when I said that could describe any of Poe's stories,
Right.
right?
And then this is true. Is she?
Yeah, is she? What happened? What's real? What's not? It's
Mhm.
hard to figure it out if you're on opium, I suppose. Yeah, I agree. It can be hard to rate short stories because you don't have as much time to invest in characters and plot. So I totally can
Yeah, I
see
agree
that.
with Stuart also. The other thing too with short stories is like you have to go into your short stories with a different type of expectation than you would go
Mhm.
in to like a novel, because you're not going to necessarily always have your characters fleshed out. So is it fair for me to say where are these gaps and all this kind of stuff, because it isn't, if he would have had more time to write about it, maybe we would have had those answers kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand that. I struggle with that.
And 4 stars. Looks like the consensus here. Strong 4 stars. A little less patience with the opium fiend. Yeah, because he does. Kind of depend on so much of the opium to try to explain some of the gaps being away, which makes sense, if someone's on opium, they'd have gaps. But yeah, I would also, even though it is a 5 star for me, I can't help but want a little more details to
Yeah,
see.
it's almost like he's got to remind you too. That's the funny
Right.
thing about the narrator is like it's be in parentheses or whatever. Like, by the way, I just want to remind you
Right.
that I was on opium at this time.
Exactly. And it's kind of funny too, because like you didn't have to tell us even once, because we can kind of figure it out, It's funny. A little less. 4.5. Yeah, okay. So I'm seeing a lot of people want more of the gaps filled in. So I love this.
Well, it almost kind of like I kind of think to myself, like, who is he talking to? Like, is he writing this down like, just like as a part of his life? And I know we're going to talk about other stories, so maybe I need to wait to talk about this aspect of it. So it's like my motivation for him telling the story, I think, is also one of those things that nags at me. It's
Mhm.
like, what is the motivation here? And it makes me wonder about him as a person just in general.
Yeah.
And also, too, I do need to ask the opium. My understanding from the story was he was not on opium when he was with Ligeia, correct?
Yeah, it seemed to me that it was something that once she started getting sick,
Then he
that
went
he
to that because he
really,
was trying to
yeah.
cope for it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was right with that.
But I have questions about her when we get to her in just a minute, about Ligeia being on opium. So I want to talk about that
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I love the vibes and ambiguity. Yes, I love ambiguous stories. I know Kat usually wants her answers, but the ambiguity has to be well earned for me. And Poe does
Yes.
that for me. I want it to be well earned where we don't know exactly what's happening. And even at the conclusion, we don't know exactly what's happening. But based on what has been written, I can come to conclusions that could fit.
This is actually a great story if you're teaching your students where they could finish the story, like they could
Mhm.
add on to the story. I love stories that kind of leave you with that because I know what my ending would be based on what I think really happened with Ligeia. But and it would be gruesome in Poe fashion.
Gruesome and Poe. Perfect. Yeah, Poe's gaps are telling. Yes, I agree. Yes, her. Yeah, she was so much of a superior in intellect, and I think he really admired that. I listened to, I think it's called the Codex Cantina. I listened the other day to their discussion of Ligeia, and they, this is maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but one of them has a theory that the narrator killed Ligeia and that possibly it was because the narrator was jealous of her superior intellect. I never got that. That was never an interpretation I had, but I would love to know if any of you thought that, and let me
Well,
know why.
that's what I was kind of wondering about, only because I know. Okay, so you know how when we read like The Black Cat and we also read The Telltale Heart, both of those had criminal activity in it. And we learn later what, why and what's manifested, all that kind of stuff. I kind of feel like it seems like he killed Rowena, which makes me wonder if he did kill Ligeia.
Good question. Good topic.
So that is why I'm saying I wonder what his motivation is
Oh,
for telling this story. Is he writing this story down for just preservation purposes or just whatever? Or is he telling this to someone after the fact when because Rowena dies and it's very
right.
seems very similar to the way Ligeia dies. And so I'm just wondering, is this a confession?
Good. Oh, I got. We're gonna have some good discussion. I
I'm
can't wait.
just
I can't wait. I get so giddy. It's not just the wine; it's the intellectual part too. I'm just getting very excited. All right, not yeah, male authors supporting or depicting women with superior intellect.
Yeah, but I think that goes to the fact that Poe really had admiration for women.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at his relationships with women, they were so much more wholesome, or um, they were just better relationships than the relationships he had with men.
Mm-hmm.
And I attribute that to the love he had for his mother,
Yes.
and he always felt the necessity to care. And I wonder if it's because he felt like his father was not a good caregiver, to his children or to his mother.
Right, because he abandoned
So
them.
my thing with that is I think that's why I just find his depiction of women always is in a respectful way. I mean, they might not always live or things happen
Right.
to them that are horrific, but it's the care and how I don't know, it's something I need to look at more closely when I read his work and just see if that goes across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because he's always like singing their praises, and when he grieves them.
well, I'm also wondering too, the guilt that some of his unreliable narrators feel is the guilt that he couldn't do more for the women in his life that he loved.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I
don't
love
know.
it. Yeah, the confession type of narrative. Yeah, very similar to like Kat said too. Yeah, Telltale Heart, Black Cat.
Yes, almost
Yeah,
deified women.
yes. And he even like he has a poem to Helen where he's comparing one of the
Yes.
women he loved to Helen, the face that launched 1,000 ships, right?
Yes,
The most
yes.
beautiful
Mhm.
woman in the world. So very exciting. Very exciting. All right, so let's take a look at the next banner. I'm getting even more excited. So, just a little bit of literary and historical context. So, Ligeia, Ligeia was originally published in September of 1838 in the Baltimore Journal, the American Museum.
Mhm.
However, it was later revised to include the poem The Conqueror Worm And then it was republished in 1845 in an edition of the weekly journal from New York called The New World. So that is something Kat and I talked about beforehand, the poem coming out after the story, and that's because it was revised. So 1838, that's a little bit early, I think, in some ways of Poe's works.
Mhm.
Based on a lot of what we've read. So I think that's also interesting that we're seeing, some of his works that preceded maybe some of his other more popular or well-known works.
Mhm. Mhm.
Even though Ligeia is not read as much, Poe is recorded as saying that it was one of his favorite stories. So,
Yes, and I was trying to see what was going on with him personally at the time. There's a lot of financial instability for him at the time, which he had a lot of financial instability throughout his whole
yes.
entire life, honestly. But he had recently moved to Philadelphia with Virginia and his mother-in-law, who was trying to provide for them. Although that year was also a good year for him with publishing because he published his one and only full-length novel that year. So I thought that was interesting as well. Not sure if it was published before or after Ligeia, but anyway, I also saw that he got paid $10 for Ligeia when he first published it in 1838.
I just still feel like that wasn't a whole lot even back then.
Yeah. Poor guy.
I know.
If he could see how popular he is today.
I know. I hope wherever, somewhere in the
Yes.
universe, I hope he knows. I hope
Yeah.
he sees, at the very least, what we got a cutout back there. He sees, he knows.
Yeah.
So
Ah.
if you didn't know that, yeah, maybe about the republication. All right. So now I will go ahead and just let everybody know we are getting into spoilers. So if you haven't read it, or, you know, if you're still here and you have read it, or you don't care about spoilers, then here we go.
Actually, and I will say, even if you have not read it or you read it and didn't understand it, you could reread it after we have this conversation, and it may open your eyes to, some of what we're talking about. It might add a layer of enjoyment of seeing it, and it could actually challenge you to come up with your own analysis.
Ooh,
That would be nice to know if somebody did read it after we have the conversation
yes.
and would add a little more to it to let us know. I like that.
I do too. Great idea. So yeah, y'all come back on and let us know what your, post reading after this discussion, what your
Hmm.
experience was. That's a great idea. So now we'll talk a little bit about the character. So we'll start with our unreliable narrator. So Kat, what are your thoughts about this narrator? Do we trust anything he says? What do you think's going on with this guy?
I don't know. I think he was kind of like a middle of the road kind of dude. He meets Ligeia. He falls in love with her. I think there's a lot of things about Ligeia he likes, physically and like intellectually. I think she challenges him in maybe some of his studies of whatever he's into at the moment. I think he was doing metaphysical
Yeah.
studies. So he's a philosopher of sorts. We know that he likes to explore that based on like his the illusions that are mentioned, in his story of how he compares Ligeia. I think that he I think maybe he was not very experienced with relationships, or if he was, it was very surface level, and Ligeia might have been the first time he ever fell in love, like true
Mhm.
love. And when she dies, he just can't handle that loss. It's a mixture of just loss. If my theory about him actually killing her, he could be dealing also with guilt, and that may be why he goes for the opium. I don't know. There's no real mention of doctors when it comes to Ligeia as it was for
Right.
Rowena, which kind of also makes me suspect as to why. And what about why, or is her family not ever like talked about, or where's the family component? Did she have a family? Did he take her away from the family? Like, what's that about? I don't know. I think he's kind of shady. I think he's kind of shady. I don't know what his story is. I wish I knew more about his story, as to why it was so easy for him to. Maybe he did have a drug addiction at some point and he kicked it because he was with Ligeia. Maybe that helped him kick it. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really trust him a whole lot. What about
He's,
you?
you, you know, I find him initially to just be, like you said, inexperienced with love. And I think that's one of the reasons why he has Ligeia up on this pedestal. I also have to wonder, let me get a little more wine before I talk about this. Um, I also have to wonder if she's like his first experience in the realm of intimacy, also.
Oh,
And that's why he has, put her like way up here. Um, so I don't know. And then I really find it interesting, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute when we contrast Ligeia with Rowena. But Ligeia represents, I guess we're kind of going into Ligeia herself now to talk about the narrator, but just the way that she represents uncanny beauty. He's often talking about how, first of all, he's got his obsession with eyes again.
uh,
Numerous times he talks about her eyes. Her eyes are large. And that makes me question, is Ligeia also on opium? Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't have time to look this up, but I think opium causes like your eyes to be wider. And I know at one point
oh.
in history, there was this it was like called belladonna or something, and I think maybe it had opium in it. Maybe somebody can look that up. But sometimes women would actually take that because bigger eyes were supposed to be more beautiful at the time. So
Mm.
I have to wonder if she is also on opium. And when I start thinking about their studies in metaphysics, because of course I always have to look up metaphysics every time I'm going to talk about it, because I always forget exactly what it means. So, just to give you a brief little definition, and this is coming from the Oxford Dictionary, metaphysics is the branch of philosophy that deals with the first principles of things, including abstract concepts such as being, knowing, substance, cause, identity, time, and space. So sometimes I think people delving into those concepts may want to open up their minds
Yes,
a
yes.
little bit more, as I'm opening up my mind with wine, because it gives them less inhibition and more insight,
Well, you're
right?
not as critical either. I mean, like you
Hmm.
said, it opens their mind a little bit to accept like other possibilities, other than what, either society has told them or what they have actually experienced, day to day. Um, yeah, Ligeia, I just think his relationship with Ligeia, that's the thing about it is like, yes, we know that where they meet, and we know that, she's got this beauty and everything, but I just think if it's something about her that maybe he is afraid himself to, maybe it was that he was afraid to look into certain things, and this was a way for him to experiment with Ligeia.
And I also see her as otherworldly, potentially a vampire. So to talk a little bit about some vampire symbolism, but we will wait. Let me check these comments real
Yeah, I
quick.
mean, Ligeia to me does give off like supernatural vibes just by the way she's described, like her physical appearance,
Mhm.
almost like she's ghostly,
Yep.
like she gives a ghostly appearance, but then she becomes a ghost.
Yep. Because he's describing her as pale. And at one point, he talks about her marble arm or hand on
Yes,
his
yes.
shoulder. And
And
that
marble
also,
is cold.
yeah.
Like, so I was thinking, what is going on here? Like,
Yep. Like vampires, at least some vampires, right? The being more stone or marble like. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, rereading, yes. Eye opening, love it. Yes, the eye opening. I don't know if you meant that as a pun, Eleanor,
Yes,
but I love
really.
it. Exactly. Yeah. The sugar mama. I love that because Poe was
Hmm.
often, as Kat mentioned earlier, struggling with money. That was my question too. If Ligeia is completely real, or if it was a split off of the narrator's own psyche. This
Well, and you know that
vision.
that's very interesting, Stina, that you bring this up. That could possibly be why we don't have any information about Ligeia except
Mhm.
that she had a wealthy family, whatever. Like he doesn't know her last name. Well, if somebody's a figment of your imagination, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean. I mean, he could potentially be on opium also from the very beginning, but
Mhm.
being unreliable, he only wants to give the details when it's suitable for him,
Right.
you know? And then again, then it wonders what's the motivation? Is he talking to a psychiatrist at this point? Who
Yeah.
is he telling this story to?
Or is he just a madman rambling?
Yes, really. On a park bench somewhere.
Yeah. Open that consciousness. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually in my Poe class I teach. I talk a little bit more about a couple of other stories connected to Ligeia, but it's in a section where I talk about vampire symbolism. So yeah, it's definitely got some elements. Oh, the Raven's Tail. I'm gonna write that down because I have not
Yeah, we'll have to.
heard of that. So the Raven's Tail. Thank you. An idea. Yeah. All right. So now a little bit about Lady Rowena. Really, the main thing that stands out to me about her is that she is the opposite of Ligeia.
Mhm.
And so I question, is the narrator trying to overcome his grief about Ligeia by trying to go into an exactly opposite direction? But for time's sake, I won't go into it, but it's a extremely gothic description of that bridal chamber where he has Lady Rowena. Um,
Mhm.
but really, to me, she just more or less is sort of there to contrast with Ligeia. What do you think, Kat?
Yeah, I mean, Ligeia's dark, Rowena's light. Ligeia's more sensual, whereas Lady Rowena's more cold. Like if you would consider her like the Ice Queen. Of course, we only have what the narrator is telling
Right.
us. Ligeia's more of like that irrational, mystical mind, whereas Rowena is more rational. So that's where it is. Also, too, I think Ligeia seems to me like the darkness with that. And the narrator, there's a point where, the doctors and all this, he keeps her shut up. And so to me, it's almost like he was depriving her of light,
Mhm.
depriving her of being able to go outside and get the light and the things that she needs. So that could also go with your vampire symbol, thread, if you want to
Mhm.
say, because is the narrator a vampire too? I mean, who knows at this point?
Right.
I don't
Right.
know. But to me, Ligeia just seems wild and exotic, whereas Rowena seems tame.
Right.
That's the best way I
Yeah,
can observe it.
I agree.
I don't know why Ligeia comes to mind. It's the actress Selma Hayek is what I envision
She
Ligeia.
would she would definitely be a beautiful, and you may also be envisioning her as a vampire because of Dusk Till Dawn,
Yeah,
right?
Dust Till Dawn, yes.
And if anybody would sit up and pay attention to a vampire, it would be her. I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
She
Mhm.
is stunning. Yes. That's a good point, Isabel, because yeah, he kept losing the women. So the idea of an eternal woman that he could never lose. That's a
Mhm.
good point. So one of the other things I think we've really probably talked about it a lot, the comparison to the other stories where we talked about the unreliable narrator, similar to the Telltale Heart, the Black Cat. The sister stories to me are Berenice and Morella, which also deal with individual women and potential some sort of vampire symbolism theme.
Mm. Well, I was also thinking about Poe's Poe seems to emphasize
Mhm.
body parts, specifically eyes.
Yes.
In this story came to mind just because of the eye symbolism, how tortured the unreliable narrator in the Telltale Heart that leads to the murder, because of the guy's eye, his vulture eye. And then also Pluto's eye is taken out in the Black Cat. And then we've got the eyes, symbolized here with Ligeia. Now they're not damaged, but they're there, and he just harps on those. So, the eyes are supposed to be the windows to the soul kind of thing. So that was what was coming to mind to me, were those two stories, and the fact of, he's very good about physicality when it comes to like the parts of the body that, I don't know if that's a Gothic thing per se, or if that was just a Poe thing, but I do think he makes an emphasis, even when you think about the Mask of the Red Death, even
Mhm.
blood coming from the eyes, kind of thing. So anyway, that's my thing about similarities and connections.
Yes, so much eye stuff. It's like that meaning of eyes, like you said, that they're the windows to the soul, and also that with someone's eyes, they could see what you're doing. If
Yes.
what you're doing, you don't want it to be seen, but
Hmm.
her eyes were large, and she was seeing everything he was up to.
Right. And same thing with Rowena. If you think about all the things that she was seeing in that room, which
Hmm.
also makes me wonder if she was drugged as well, having the hallucinations that she was having.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, because he talks about the changing, like the curtains and everything,
yeah, the
beginning to get like
tapestry and
yeah,
everything, and how
grotesque.
fearful she was.
Hmm. That would definitely make sense for her to be drugged too. So a couple of like the key elements of the romantic vampire, and we can kind of talk about these and see what we see in Ligeia. So romantic vampires are often described as, of course, being just enchantingly beautiful, almost this otherworld quality, and
Mhm.
they would draw people in despite their dangerous nature. So that element of the sublime. There's one part, a quote where I can't remember exactly how the narrator says it, but he talks about the alluring and awful appearance of
Mm.
Ligeia. So that idea of the sublime, it's something so beautiful you can't help but be attracted to it, but it's dangerous. The romantic vampire is often depicted as being somewhat of a social outcast and lonely, like you were talking
Mm.
about. This isolation and alienation from society, which reflects the romantic idea of the misunderstood individual. Like Kat, you were talking about, they didn't really go out, they were confined to
Mhm.
that space. The forbidden love and desire, because of course, that allure of a vampire can often be a representation of forbidden sexual desire.
Mm.
So he's finding out all these new things that he never thought about from Ligeia. So you can take that as you will, add an intensity and a danger to this romantic relationship. Mortality and the fear of death. By preying on the living, the vampire symbolizes the human fear of mortality and the desire to defy death. And of course, you have also like the very gothic atmosphere, which lends itself to vampires. But one other thing I want to talk about that makes me think about vampire symbolism is when Rowena is sick and she's drinking her wine, right? that
Hmm.
like this medicinal one, and the narrator says he sees like this hand, right? And this hand just drops a couple of little drops.
Is it blood?
That's what I think. I think it is Ligeia returned and
Okay, well, when you
poured
saying
the
that too.
blood.
Well, you saying that though, you wonder if the reason why the narrator brings Rowena into the home is for Ligeia, which would make sense that the narrator himself is not a vampire, but almost like when you let the right one in.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how the vampire has a keeper? And so I wonder if Ligeia picked him just
Mm-hmm.
based on his personality, he becomes her keeper. And so, yes, she dies, but did she really die? I mean, we
Right.
don't know. There is no like funeral. In fact, I question why they have a sarcophagus in the bridal turret room
Right.
anyway.
Right.
I mean, to
I
me,
think
that would be
she pours
perfectly where, yeah,
the
I think
blood, her
Ligeia could
blood.
be in there, in that sarcophagus,
Mm-hmm.
and Rowena is just there to be fed on. Maybe that explains the sickness of
Mm-hmm.
Rowena. Because think about it, they're very weak when a vampire first starts feeding on their victim. I mean,
Yep.
we've seen Dracula.
Right. Nosferatu. Yep. So I feel like it was Rowena, or
I
rather
like
Lygia,
this. I like this
dropping the
angle.
blood, you know? Because think about in Dracula, where, the victims that he wants to continue on, they drink his blood, like that very innuendo laced part where Mina is drinking from Dracula. So
Yes.
I don't know. That's just, some of the things that I think about, like vampire symbolism. I'm also very obsessed with vampires. So anytime I can work it into something, I love to do it.
Well,
So,
that does make you think about it from a different aspect. So now I'll have to reread it, thinking about Ligeia being a vampire. That would change how you interpret the story.
I'm going to see our comments now too. See what everybody
I
thinks.
love
Let's
that. I
see.
love that. Hmm.
Adrian, a vampire. Yep. Same wavelength there. Yes. Oh, the ending to Berenice, yeah. Speaking of obsession with body parts, right? It's not
Yeah.
eyes, it's something else that we won't spoil, but could also share a
I
connection
need to
to
go back and
vampires.
reread Berenice and Morella because I read them during my summer of Poe, but that was
Mm-hmm.
back in like 2020. So I'll need to go back and read both of those and compare it to Ligeia.
Yes,
Um, and
yes.
reread Ligeia
I
again.
want to hear your thoughts. Some of my best student reactions come at that end of Berenice. I'll say that. Yes, exactly. What Stina said, that the narrator married Rowena to have a vessel for Ligeia's return. But how much he acknowledges to himself, right? Not much, right? He denies that.
Well, but you almost wonder too, because when you think about it, and I'm using the comparison of letting the right one in, I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
comes a point where the helper or the caregiver of the vampire does start feeling guilt and feeling badly about it. So it's if maybe when he discovers what Ligeia really is and he starts the opium, it's for him like not to have to deal with the fact of really what she is, that she is something otherworldly, and it frightens him. And if he doesn't do what she's supposed to do, because Rowena's very off, I mean, she's not, she doesn't care for him,
Right.
and he loathes her because she's not. But I don't know if he necessarily loathes her because of her, or he loathes her for what she stands for, of what he needs to do with her. And
Oh,
so
I
again,
love
maybe
it.
it's like a guilt thing, that yes, he's picked this person. And that might also be why there's no mention of family and all that kind of stuff, and he's moved because he can't have anybody interfering,
Right.
with that. And that could also explain why they have to move. If you have a vampire, you have to move. You can't be in the same place with a vampire. I mean, somebody's going to catch on to something.
Exactly. And it could also explain how Ligeia is so intelligent and how she knows so much because she's been around and probably experienced a lot of these things firsthand and also had all that extra time to learn and study, which is just one of the reasons why I would like to be a vampire, to have more time to learn and
To
study.
read. Yes,
Yes,
and to read.
yes, all the time in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hitting upon something. Yes, that he doesn't understand. Yes.
Well, and also too, if you are in like a drug and like into drugs and stuff like that, it's almost like you just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he doesn't have to really think about it, and maybe that's why he can't really explain the way he wants to explain, because he himself can't wrap his mind around the fact that he's fallen in love with this supernatural creature. And then now he's got to go out, almost like he's a familiar.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And he's learning, learning at her feet too, learning
Yeah.
everything from her. Yeah, like you said, like a familiar would be.
Yeah, I'm the same way, Adrian.
We,
I think I'm gonna need to reread Berenice and Morella and Ligeia just so I can get this all on the same page.
yes,
So this is
they're
exciting.
three of my favorites.
It's exciting.
Let's see what else. Also with the conqueror worm, I just love that poem anyway. It is quite creepy, but I love that
Mhm.
symbolism of the worm and how it devours everyone at the end of the poem, symbolizing this endless, this end to this cycle of madness, because the people that are in the play, they are just running around back and forth trying to function, trying to have some kind of life, trying to think that they have some control over life, but they find out by the end that they really don't. So this worm appears, sinking its fangs into the human flesh and
Mhm.
ending the play. So the worm represents death.
That's
Um,
what I said.
yep, puts
It
that in.
reminds me of the lair of the white worm. That's what I thought
Yes,
about.
yep.
The lair of the white worm.
And the angels watching, they're just like, oh, well, this is what happens to people. This is just life. And when we think about that in context of what Ligeia keeps talking about, that about the will, that I kind of paraphrase it like she's saying that people only die because their will is not strong enough to fight back.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Or
she
yeah.
has the will to fight back as a vampire, and that's exactly what she does. So, any other thoughts about that?
The only kind of thing I was thinking about was exploration of the power of will and then also free will. Like, do you really
Mhm.
have free will? You know, in this context, I would say probably not. I mean, I guess you do in the sense that you can make the decisions that you make, but if you don't have uh your will is not powerful enough for you to do what you need to do to survive, and then it's also your mind too. It's like, is your mind powerful enough to handle whatever you need to do? If you don't
Exactly.
have a really presence of mind, and that might be why the narrator is in the role that he's in. His mind is not as strong as Ligeia's.
No, not at all. He seems very, very passive. It's like he himself is a vessel for her too, in a
Yes,
different way than Lady Rowena, but he's still a vessel, acting out almost out of compulsion because of how obsessed he is with her. So
right.
that kind of makes you think about the power of the vampire too, to have that you know ability to make others bend to their wills.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. My wheels are spinning in my
I know,
mind right now.
I know, right? Love it. Me too.
Ah,
Hello, Elaine. Yes, vampire
hello.
symbolism in Ligeia. It's lovely to see you, Elaine. I wonder if you're still buried under snow over there in Canada. Yes, exactly. Because she does, write that poem in the story. And it definitely, as
Mhm.
Adrian said, is depicting how her studies are focused on a way to live forever. Um, One other thing I want to talk about is liminality or liminal spaces in this story, because that is one of my all time obsessions with just anything in general, is this idea of liminality. And Poe uses liminality over and over again in his work. So it's just another aspect that we can connect it to other works too. But there are multiple mentions of liminal time. So I just want to go over them very
Mhm.
quickly. One of them is on, well, in my edition, it won't matter, so I won't worry about page numbers. But he talks about midsummer nights spent with Ligeia. And midsummer, to me, is that summer solstice where you're thinking about this changing of the seasons. So liminal spaces, anytime you have a change, something's ending and something else is beginning. The belief is that you are more open up to the spiritual world, or that the veil between the world of the living and the dead is at its thinnest in liminal time. Then he talks about midnight a couple of other times. Something important is happening at midnight. So that's another liminal time. He talks
Mhm.
about something happening in late September. So to me, we're thinking late September. That's the autumnal equinox around that time. So again, something important happening at a liminal space. And then something else at dawn. So when we have another liminal time, when we're ending one day, going into the next. That's a paper someone should write. I'm finished with grad school, so I don't want, I mean, I might do it. I might write it and do a video essay, but anyone who's interested, I think it would be a very exciting concept to look at liminality in the works of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah,
Any,
I'm new to that because I wasn't even thinking about that so much. But I mean, I knew that there was significance in the Mask of the Red Death with the midnight and what happened
Mhm,
because you're ending and then beginning,
yes.
that whole, I think it was very important that he picked that time period. I think it's the same here. It's
Mhm.
intentional that he's doing that at that time. But I would need to look into liminality just in general. Like, do a deep dive into that
Mhm.
before I could do a deep dive into it with his writing.
There's also in The Raven, Once Upon a Midnight
Yes.
Dreary, and it's in the bleak December. So
Yeah, and
December
like I
the end
always
is
said,
the
my
beginning.
mom used to say, "Nothing good happens after midnight."
There you go. Whether it's, reawakening of the dead or a creepy raven perching above your chamber door.
Well, it's also going to, I need to remember that when I go into reading certain things, like reading Dark Sisters right now. I'm wondering how much liminality is in that as well when it comes to the storyline in 1750,
Mhm,
where the character there is actually participating in ritualistic activity. I need to go back and look in there and see because I think that would be fascinating. It's just fascinating how it all can kind of be connected.
mhm.
People are influenced by our writers like Poe, and like the concept of liminality. Who is a good person to start with that? Jen, do you know, like in your
I
reading? And
I think Poe is. Stephen King also uses it in his
but I'm
works.
saying like to do a deep dive into
Oh,
liminality
into
in
liminal.
general.
Okay, like a scholar. Um, hmm. I first actually heard about liminal spaces from Dr. Sarah Cleto and Dr. Brittany Warman. They run the Carter Hall School of the wait a minute, Carter Hall School of Folklore and the Fantastic.
Okay, say that again. Carter
Carter
Hall.
Hall School of Folklore and the Fantastic.
Okay.
They are PhDs, but instead of teaching at an academic, in an
Okay.
academic setting, they started their own school.
School.
And
Okay.
it is amazing. I have learned so much from them. They first introduced me to liminality, so they're a good starting point, and then
Okay.
they can also
Good.
give resources. But if you just look up liminality, Sarah Cleto, Brittany Warman, you'll probably find a lot there.
Hmm.
And they're really cool too, just on top of everything.
Well, that's probably why there's no, I mean, that wasn't an accident that one of his short story collections, Stephen King, is 4 Past Midnight.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're going to have me go down a rabbit hole, Jen.
Yay. Let's see where we left off. Oh, happy kite flying day, pork rind day, and opera day. I love it. I don't think I'll do any of those today,
Right
but
now.
I love that this exists. More snow. 18 below Celsius with a wind chill. Wow.
Oh,
That's so cold.
yeah. I would
And a
die.
lot of snow.
I would die.
It's pretty though, at least from a distance. Like Elaine recently uploaded a video where she's going around her yard, and a lot of the video is with the deep, deep snow, and it is very pretty from this part of the world
Right.
down here where I am in South Alabama. It's very pretty. Yes, yes, always to more Poe. I think you will love it, Elaine.
I don't think you'll be disappointed at all by reading more Poe,
No.
Elaine.
Does Rowena get processed, or is it the delusion of his opium
I
and
think she meant possessed.
possessed? Could be, he could be under the influence of opium, or
I
you
don't think
know,
she's possessed. I think us talking about this, I just think she's being used for Ligeia
mm-hmm,
to live.
that's what I think too.
Yeah, I
Like
don't know
she's
if you
got
came
that.
in Swank to hear, but there are vampiric um symbolism
Mm-hmm.
in the story. I'm getting more convinced as we talk about it.
Yay! Normal winter. Yeah, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. So we are coming up on about an hour. So, Kat, do you have any other interpretations of the ending or anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Well, I think now that, like at first I was thinking maybe it didn't really happen. I thought perhaps he was the one that caused the death of Rowena, which made me start thinking that possibly he caused the death of Ligeia, only because he was not married to Rowena for very long, and it did not make it sound like she was sickly when they got married. Whereas Ligeia, you had like some indication that possibly just because she was pale,
Mhm.
she had the feeling of marble. But now that y'all are talking about the possibility that Ligeia could be a vampire, it makes me think that yes, that Ligeia is really there. She's not a ghost though, like I was thinking. You know what I'm saying? Because like a vampire can take on different forms,
Yeah.
and they can be invisible. I'm pretty sure they can be invisible depending on I guess, who's writing the story.
Right.
So like the padding on the rug without seeing an actual person, the drops being put in the cup and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of feel like she was there the whole time. The sarcophagus now makes sense to me. I just thought that was the weirdest thing as to why you would have a sarcophagus in your bridal chamber. That just kind of freaked me out. That would have had to leave if I was
Right.
like married to this man. Um, so now that all makes sense to me, that I do think that he is telling somewhat of a truth. I don't think he's given us everything.
Right.
You know, he's not spelling it all out. I think there's gaps now for a reason. Because maybe whoever he's telling this to, it if he reveals more than he's revealed, maybe his life is in danger now. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really got me thinking that I think what he's saying is true. Ligeia is there, but I don't think Ligeia possessed Rowena's body.
Right.
I think that she fed off of Rowena and she's just there now.
Right. She came.
The only thing is his response to her at the end is it's almost like he keeps thinking about Ligeia and keeps thinking about Ligeia, and then when he sees that it is Ligeia, and here then at least I shrieked aloud, can I never be mistaken? These are the full and the black and the wild eyes of my lost love of the lady Ligeia. So I'm just wondering, it's like that's the only thing that causes me to pause as far as why doesn't he know that it's Ligeia? You know what I'm saying? Or is
Right.
that because he's in such an opium induced state that I don't know, that's where the conflict is.
I
But I
think
do
he's
think that she's there.
Yeah, I think he's shocked. Like he knew possibly what she was, but I think seeing it really happen, he's like, could I be mistaken? Could this be wrong? No, that's her. That's my Ligeia.
Well, and then also I guess Ligeia is his introduction to a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And if Rowena is the first victim that he has to go through this situation, then I guess it is shocking to him.
Yeah.
Like he never did lose her or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, y'all be sure and check out Elaine's new video with the snow and a hawk. Can't wait. Oh, so Google said Lodgy is a vampire of the mind or a succubus to the narrator. I think that tracks. That
Mhm.
fits very well. Absolutely. Any other final thoughts before we talk about any read alikes or watch alikes?
Mm-mm. I'm just looking at my notes really quickly.
All right. Or
Yeah, a
any
lot of what I thought at the beginning has changed. So, yeah. Because I literally at one point was thinking, did Ligeia take over Lady Rowena's body? You know, that whole point of when like the body was coming to life and
Mhm.
then it would go back to death, and then it was coming to life and then going back to death. To me, it wasn't literal in that sense. That was the whole thing of like, you know, death and then like a rebirth,
Uh-huh.
but it's like giving life to Ligeia. Yeah. So yeah, I've been knocked off my what I thought.
I love that. I love when, you look at it one way and then you talk about it and then
Mhm,
you look at it
mhm.
another way.
Yes,
That's
okay.
one of the great parts of, like you said
Of
earlier, the
discussion,
great, yeah.
yes.
So, do you have any read alikes or watch alikes, Kat, or anybody in the chat?
As far as like to Ligeia, I mean, now that I know that there is a very strong possibility that she is a vampire, of course, it's just the classics like Dracula, you know, Interview with a Vampire, Let the Right One In. It's just having that relationship with someone. It could be that Ligeia's familiar or Ligeia's caregiver has died, and now that's
Mhm,
why she sought him out, kind of thing. He thinks maybe they met, you know, like normal, but maybe she sought him out instead of him seeking
mhm.
her out, kind of thing. Yeah, I it would just be traditional like vampire lore to me. I think about the Lair of the White Witch because of, the conqueror worm that comes to
Mhm.
mind for me. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think about it a little more, because that's not. Oh, I'm in a different rabbit hole, y'all.
Right.
So what about you? What do you have when?
For read-alikes, which we already talked about, Berenice and Morella,
Mhm.
Poe also has a poem called "The Sleeper," which I think would
Yes.
fit well to be along with
Now I
this
have
in
to
that line.
reread The Sleeper.
Yeah,
I read
and
that during my week with Poe.
I thought you did. Yeah. And then The Birthmark by Nathaniel Hawthorne. And I'm comparing that because in The Birthmark, there's a man who, his wife is absolutely beautiful, but she's got this birthmark and he thinks that she would be even more beautiful without it. So he tries to get rid of it and it, we'll just say, doesn't go well. But it's that same idea of beauty and obsession, from, a man about a woman. And then I have not watched the movie. This is very much on the nose, but I do know that there is a movie with Vincent Price. I think it's another Roger Corman Poe adaptation, The Tomb of Ligeia.
Yes.
I haven't
Mhm.
watched it, but I might watch it. We'll see. Maybe, maybe not.
I
Um,
think I think ED watched The Tomb of Ligeia.
Well, if you're still here, Edie, let us know what you thought of it and if it's a close adaptation. A couple of other movies I thought about are Nosferatu, specifically the 2024 from Robert Eggers, is
Yes.
again the idea of death and rebirth and obsession, of the romantic vampire kind. And then
Yes.
also I thought about Crimson Peak because you have a I don't want to spoil it in case anybody hasn't seen it, but it's Guillermo del Toro. But Crimson Peak, you have a
Oh, that's
new
right.
woman going into a marriage in a house that may or may not be haunted by past
Mhm.
wives.
That
So,
is a fantastic movie if you have not
it,
seen it.
and it is gorgeous too. It is just
Yes. Anything that
gorgeous.
Guillermo de Toro touches is gorgeous, in my
Yes.
opinion. He does no wrong.
I have some issues with his Frankenstein
I
adaptation, but
haven't watched that yet.
that's for another day. But Crimson Peak, yes, spot
Hmm.
on. So let's check our comments before we wrap up. Let's see. Okay, that's
Okay.
interesting too. That would be an interesting take to look at mesmerism.
Yes, because he does have a story about mesmerism. Poe does. So I wonder if they combined
Hmm.
Ligeia with the Valdemar story.
I wonder too, because if
The
it is
facts in the
Roger
case of
Corman,
M. Valdemar, I wonder if
uh-huh,
they combine those two because that is about mesmerism.
yeah,
Where, it's like kind of like a zombie take on it, but
uh-huh,
mesmerism is I read it and did a little deep dive into that. That was like a practice at that time, around that time or whatever. Because they did that with Mask of the Red Death. They had put Hop
uh-huh.
Frog in that. So good to know.
That is good to know. That makes me actually more interested in watching it now.
Hmm.
Oh, yes. The professor and the pollinator. We've done it. Yes,
Yay,
Stewart.
Stewart.
Read Poe, read Poe. Join the cult. It's not a cult.
Mhm.
Wait, wait.
Ah,
Agreed. Absolutely. Because you get into, new insights and learn more from others' perspectives. Elaine and I recently did a buddy read of The Shining by Stephen King. And in March,
fantastic.
yep, we're doing a buddy read along with at least one, maybe a couple other people, of Dr. Sleep, which The Shining was a reread for me. I have not read Dr. Sleep. It's a
What?
first read. No, it's going to be my first read. I've seen the movie,
Oh.
but I'm excited to read the book.
When is that going to be? When are y'all doing that one?
March.
March. Okay.
March for Dr.
I
Sleep.
hope you enjoy it. I liked Dr. Sleep. I like what
I
he
like
did
the
with it.
movie, so I'm fingers crossed I will.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Different plot, but tone and themes. Yes, I do too. I do too. Just that inner, connectedness between his stories. You could almost think of his Poe verse, that way we think of a king. Speaking of king,
Yeah, the
King
universe
universe,
of Poe. I
Poe
know.
universe.
And I
Good to
think because
know.
Poe's life story hits me in the heart the same way Vincent van Gogh's life story hits me. Like it's just, I think it adds another layer to reading his work that makes you
Mm-hmm.
appreciate his writing. I mean, he was a wonderful writer,
Yeah,
just all on its own, but knowing his life story and how much of himself is in his stories just makes it wonderful. Just amazing.
I agree. Vincent Price. Yeah, all the love for Vincent Price.
Yeah, Vincent Price is amazing.
Oh, good comparison. Adrian said Rebecca gives some Ligeia vibes in a subtle way. Again, when you think about a new wife going into a house that's, very much overshadowed by a previous wife. Oh, it is another Roger Corman. He said inspiration from other Poe stories. A little confusing. Not the best, Corman.
Yeah.
Well, I may have to rethink watching it, Ed. I may start it. We don't
Well,
know if
we
I'll
may just
finish.
have to watch it, Jen, to say that we did. So that
Yes, unless I just get into it and I'm like, no, I can't finish it. Yeah, another
Yeah.
all the Crimson Peak love. Yes, you can't go wrong with it.
No.
Thank you, Elaine. We would love to have you let us know what you think after your Did I drink too much wine? Let us know what you think after your rewatch. Yeah. Yes,
And I love how she puts it in parentheses like the
right.
unreliable narrator.
Exactly. I can neither confirm nor deny the status of that
I'm taking the fifth.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I feel like the book will be its own thing, obviously. And I know that in the movie, without getting off on too much of a tangent, I know in the movie Mike Flanagan did his best to marry Stephen King's Shining novel with Stanley Kubrick's movie adaptation. So I'm definitely interested in seeing just the King version of Danny's story. Thank you for being here, Stina, and thank you for adding insightful comments as we were going along.
I agree. So much to chew on.
Yeah, exactly. Yay! Yay. Love that, Eleanor. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Lovecraft
was
is
not, he was not a very nice human
no,
at all.
very, very much racist, xenophobic, misogynistic, all the phobic sticks that make us sick at our stomachs, but his works.
Yeah,
He
that's where
did
you
do
got to
some good
definitely
things.
separate the art from the artist.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Adrian.
Adrian.
Thank you for your comments.
Yes,
Thank you,
thanks,
ED.
ED.
So we will close this out. And I just want to thank everyone for taking time out of your Sunday to be here. Thank you, Kat, for being the mystery guest that probably everybody knew exactly who I was going to ask. But it was still a wonderful surprise for everyone. And if you are watching on the replay, thank you for taking time to watch the replay. Please let us know what you think of Ligeia, what your interpretation is. especially if it's something different than what we thought of, because we are here to deep dive, learn more, go off on tangents, and just enjoy this wonderful thing we call reading.
100%. Thank you.
Let me see if I can get everybody's comments up just to say goodbye real quick. Thank you. Thank you. And bye, everybody.